Good morning, Fred. How are you doing? And thank you for joining the show.
Good morning, Paul. I'm doing great. Thanks for the invite. Happy to be here.
Well, it's my honor, believe me. So we met when I went on a shop tour with the NTMA conference a few weeks ago, and I was impressed with the shop, impressed with the way you were leading it, and particularly interested in some of the stories that you shared when we went through the shop. So yeah, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and your shop to the audience.
Great. Thanks, Paul. It was great to have you here and the whole NTMA organization when they were in Kansas City for the national event.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Fred Stipkovitz. I'm the president of UltraTech Aerospace. We're a medium-sized machine shop based in Kansas City. As the name says, specializing in the aerospace side of things.
Awesome. So that means a lot of different things to different shops. So I'd love for you to elaborate on just like specific types of work, types of machines that you have, kind of this really the niche specialty that you guys kind of cater to.
Sure. So, the majority of our projects are F-35 fighter programs.
Mm-hmm.
I took over the shop about a year ago, well, actually a little over a year ago. So, we are about a 46-person facility. We've got 3, 4, and 5 access machines. Most of them are Mazaks and Moris. Some lathes. We've got a medium-sized, decent-sized capacity, about 120-inch in length capacity. And we do some airframe components, and mostly everything else is ground support type of equipment. Mm-hmm. Bomb loading tables for the F-35, lift fan extraction systems for the F-35, various other components that go on the F-35 while it's on the ground. And then, like I said, some on airframe things. We do some components for the T-7 Red Hawk, the new Saab Boeing joint venture, or if you will, for the new trainer. And we've got some B-2 products, not airframe products, but B-2 support, F-16 and F-18 support equipment. We have, obviously the machining side of things. We have a fairly extensive kitting and assembly side where we kit and assemble, whether it be machine components or distributed components. We have a NADCAP D17-1 weld operation that is heavily backlogged right now. Some great weld work in there. And then we have a distribution side for NAS and mil-spec hardware and bearings that is pretty extensive.
Yeah, I was impressed with the assemblies that I saw, that equipment that you were building with weldments and machine parts and hardware, and it was extensive. It's complex stuff for sure. A lot of moving pieces. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background. How did you get into machining, into the industry, and then to be the president of this company?
Yeah, it's been an interesting opportunity. I actually have no machining background whatsoever. I have been in the aviation aerospace industry for most of my life. Have a commercial pilot's license, multi-engine instrument rating, flew a little corporate. For the most part, been on the fueling side of things, worked at a number of large world-leading manufacturers of aviation refueling equipment. As a director of quality, weld inspector, set up weld programs, director of sales and service, and peddled aircraft refueling equipment to oil companies around the country. I mean, around the globe, actually. Mm-hmm. So really had a good bit of manufacturing experience after I left the military, but no machine shop experience. It was one of those opportunities back in about 2018. I was looking at leaving the aviation fueling industry. UltraTech had a position open for a business development manager position.
Okay.
I said, hey, this is a close, but not the same, but aviation related. I'll throw my name in the hat, see what happens. Mm-hmm. Interviewed, interviewed for a number of, with a number of folks, made it to the top two, got the phone call that said, hey, sorry, really liked your background, really liked everything you had to offer, but we're going with somebody that has some machine shop industry experience. But we'll hold on to your resume in case something pops up. Yeah,
Sure.
okay, right. Always say that.
Yeah.
So a few years go by. I left the aviation fueling industry, moved on to start a government contracts division at a different manufacturing company, and about a year ago, July 21, got a phone call from the VP of HR that said, hey, remember me? I told you I'd save your resume. I'm like, yeah, sure. What do you got? She's like, hey, I have this opportunity at UltraTech, our machine shop. So UltraTech is owned by not really a PE firm, but kind of like a PE firm. It's a local family that started an investment group that has bought a few companies, machine shops, and distribution businesses. So I said, hey, I'm open to talk. She sent me the job description. I called her back and said, hey, a little confused. A few years ago, I interviewed for a business development manager role. Now you're sending me the president role. And what's up? She says, well, UltraTech is, we've had some struggles with leadership and have had some struggles with, figuring out the business. And we think you've got the right background. Understand you don't have any machine shop experience, but we need some high level leadership, not somebody that can machine parts. So interviewed, July, August, September, October, and got the call, and got the opportunity to come in and try my hand at running UltraTech. So
wow.
It was, hey, we've got some leadership problems and we have some struggles, but until I got here, didn't know the extent of that. So not only did I have a whole new industry to learn, a whole new business to learn, but I walked into really just a bad culture, a toxic environment, and really had to spend the last year figuring out what this place is, what we do, how we do it, who are the people, and go from there. So
wow.
It's been one hell of a ride. It's been one hell of a year, but it's been an amazing opportunity, and we've got some amazing things in place at UltraTech right now that are just we've got nowhere but up to go, and we're climbing fast.
That is a very interesting and exciting story. Wow, jumping in with both feet. I mean, from what I saw, and the tour wasn't super extensive, it seems like things are really coming together. So I'd love to kind of go next with, well, I guess first sort of the context. There's so many shops that get started where they are someone who does have a background in machining or programming, or they're journeyman, they're a tool and die maker, they're good at the craft, but they jump in with both feet, thinking they know how to run a shop, and they just really don't, because it's a totally different set of skills, right? As you know. So what I'd love for you to just share more of sort of what the process you went through to kind of turn this thing around and get it to where it is.
Paul, you're absolutely right. Everybody wants to run their own business, wants to do their own thing, think, and in many cases think that it's easy. And, I spend a lot of time doing pro bono consulting for a number of veteran-owned veteran-owned fabrication shops around Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a very same scenario where you've got a master fabricator that can just design, anything, and or a welder that can just lay an unbelievably beautiful artwork in welding. Wants to work for themselves, jumps into it with both feet, and then realizes, holy hell, I don't even know the first thing about running the business. So,
Yes.
I do a lot of consulting and help these types of companies on the outside where we talk about vendor agreements and negotiating net terms and understanding how to manage your net terms and your cash flow and things like that. But when I came to UltraTech, one of the things that I did, one of the very first things, and the ownership here is amazing. The ownership, again, doesn't have a machining background either.
Hmm.
But what they know is they know what they don't know, and they know kind of to let the experts do their thing. So they're very hands off, but yet very supportive. And
That's
when
awesome.
I interviewed and talked with them, I said, listen, I don't look for deliverables, major deliverables from me for the first 6, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. I've got a people problem here. I've got a culture problem. I need to spend my time on the shop floor. And that's what I did. I brought every employee in this company through my office, and we sat down and talked for 2, 3 hours. Some people, came back around for a second time. These machinists, these experts in their trade, they know what they expect out of a business, or what they want, or how they want to be treated, or what needs to go into the company to run it. And so I spent a lot of time listening and a lot of time figuring out what makes this industry and this skilled trade and this skilled labor tick. And it's basic human factors. People want to be recognized, people want to be respected, want to be listened to, and a corner office person that's going to spend more time on the floor than sitting in their behind their office. So it's running the business is one thing. Having a good accounting system, having a good ERP, or a good system to help manage the book of business, having good program managers and sales folks. But at the end of the day, if the chips aren't flying and the parts aren't coming off, none of that's on this side of the wall matters.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So I like that, doing a lot of listening. So what did you, as you did that listening with all these different folks, team members, what revealed itself to you?
It's interesting. Some of it, most of it was little things, just a lot of little things. Guys saying, hey, I've asked to have my machine moved 18 inches to the left so that we've got more space in between the machines, because whenever we're both working, we're rubbing elbows. And, that may sound like something pretty minuscule to somebody that's on the other side of the wall that says, well, I mean, is that really that big of a deal? Well, yeah, I mean, that is, to that guy that's standing in that machine 10 hours a day, 4 days a week or longer, you know, that's like you and I having, a $300 comfortable office chair as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to a lower level, right? For us sitting in this chair all day long, it's important. We need good back support, all that type of stuff. And you think that it's overrated or overpriced until you sit in a crappy chair for 10 hours and you get up and you're like, oh shit, my back is killing me.
Yeah.
Well, the same situation. So, what revealed itself is that the little things that these machinists, these guys were asking for that weren't that big of a deal, add up to be a big deal when they're ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And not having a lot of machining or any machining experience or working in a machine shop also gave me a different perspective, a fresh set of eyes. So when I would walk through our shop and then I'd go and visit another shop, I would compare. So I visited a local shop and I noticed, man, all these machines are nice and brightly lit. And I come back home and walk through mine and we got crappy lighting. And so I'd call in my maintenance guy. I'm like, hey, JJ, what's up, man? Our machines, man, they're not very well lit. Oh yeah, we've got old machines, and nobody ever wanted to put the money into to get new LED lights or brighter lights in the machines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay. Well, I mean, for me, as a fresh set of eyes, one of the first things I noticed walking through another shop is how well lit things are. Well, we need to change that. Well, so we changed that. We went out and got LED lighting and upgraded all of the lighting in the machines. And we only have 18 machines. And it was $110 a piece.
Sure.
It's not that big of a deal, but it's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Um, so it were the little things. It was the little things like that we were implementing and changing as we went down the road that improved the work environment. Hey, Dave, you want your lathe machine? Your lathe moved 18 inches. Okay, we'll call in the company that moves machines. How much is it going to cost? Oh, $2,500. Really? That's it. And for years that was sloughed off as not important and not of value. Get the damn machine moved tomorrow.
Right.
And so it's the little things that added up to change the overall culture here. It was listening, and the thing is it wasn't just, hey Joe, what do you want different out there? Because everybody's going to have an opinion, right? And you know what they say about opinions, but it was asking the follow-on question. So, okay, Dave, you want your machine moved? Give me the reason, justify it. Let me help you understand the bigger picture of how business is run. You want your machine moved? It's going to cost you $2,500. What's the return on that investment? Let's slide you over onto my side of the desk for a minute, and let's share information. And that's you teach me why it's important to move your machine and what the value of that is, and I'll help you understand how the business is run and how we do that and how that cost affects things and where that cost falls on our spreadsheet. And so over the course of the year, I've had these guys teach me so much about the importance of how that shop is run, and in turn I've taught them and have helped explain to them how the business is run, so they have a more vested interest, and we can share back and forth. If somebody comes in and says, hey, we need, let's talk about the lights. Okay, the advantage of having a brightly lit machine helps me, measure my parts and monitor my work and do my job better and get less scrap and better parts off there, because I'm able to really see things and how things are going better on my machine. Easy. Okay, great. Reducing scrap by one piece of material just paid for that entire upgrade on lights.
Sure.
So it's been that type of back and forth to help learn about the business and teach about how to run the business. Simple things like accruing, how we accrue for bonuses, or how we accrue, different, pots of money, and explaining it that, hey, if we don't spend all of our accrual, we pull it back in, and that adds to the bottom line. Well, what really is accruing that expense, or how do we depreciate that expense? You want to spend X amount on an upgrade on a new pallet or a new tombstone. How do we work that into our budget so that long term, we absorb that expense as opposed to taking a one-time hit. So it was really, it's that was the listening is, and then asking the question, the follow-on question, to get an understanding of what the return on that upgrade would be.
That's important stuff. So how transparent are you with the team members on the finance side? I mean, do you do profit sharing, or do you kind of share how you're doing each month?
I am 100% transparent. Some will say that's bad business practice, but really, if you explain it the right way and you go through it the right way, maybe my ownership may not agree, but and maybe when we're super profitable, maybe there's a difference in how you handle it. But when I took over a year ago, we were staring down the barrel of $1.5 million loss, and we closed out fiscal year 22 at 104% of EBITDA and put money in the bank. So,
Impressive.
and that's the first time in the 6 years, and I mean, I'll not afraid to air the dirty laundry. That's the first time in 6 years this company's been profitable.
Mm-hmm.
I firmly believe that by sharing their financials, by sharing the company performance, you get a vested interest in how people participate in the daily operations of this company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If they don't understand the detriment or the negative impact of scrapping a part, and they just throw it on the MRB table and move on, but they don't understand how that affects the business, or the exact opposite, they don't know how running a job efficiently and getting more direct hours as opposed to indirect time is beneficial to the business.
Mm-hmm.
They just come in and punch the time clock. Right? I don't
Sure.
want another everybody. I want somebody. Everybody just wants to come in, punch the time clock. I'm not looking for another everybody. I'm looking for somebody that's set apart from everybody else. I want somebody, and that comes from transparency and openness. I just handed out EBITDA bonuses this year. It's the first time that these folks have gotten EBITDA bonuses in 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I firmly believe that that's a direct result of the transparency of how the business is functioning, what the impact, positive or negative, is to how they perform their daily job and responsibilities.
Yeah.
And it pays off. You get people that are vested, people that care, people that understand the inner workings, and that and I also feel that it's a sign of respect to that you're not wow, you don't need to know that. You just go out there and make chips, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody wants to be told that. Let's sit
Sure.
down. Anybody can walk in my office at any point in time. I'll pull up the P&L and we'll talk about it.
Wow. So you said doing it the right way. Do you have some tips for people on what the right way is to share and not share?
Yeah, I guess I would say it's really the thing is the right, in my opinion, I guess the right way to share. And if I was, I guess I don't really have a solid, hey, this is the right way to share, right? Everybody's got to evaluate their business, how they do things, and determine what the right way to share is. But the way I looked at it and the way I viewed it is I broke it down, to a smaller finite level. Hey, small tool spend, right? Let's look at small tool spend. And let's talk about what we spend on small tools, what what we can do to reduce spend. We can't raise our prices, so we have to look at opportunities to shave costs to make the business more profitable.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about what those opportunities are. Let's talk about applied hours, how applied hours are beneficial and indirect hours aren't, and how that factors into how you make money. Let's talk about the bad decisions that happened here in the past. Right, we had a number of jobs that we were struggling and kicking the can down the road, and find out maybe we weren't using the right process or the right materials. Let's talk about how that transpired, and let's talk about the process leading up to that. Right, it's just not a bad decision, just doesn't, or a sticky situation just doesn't happen. There's a
Right.
process that leads up to that. So let's talk about the decision process leading up to that and what was missed, so we can learn from it. And these are discussions I have with everybody. We sit down, and if a part comes off a machine bad, and let's sit down and talk about how that part came off bad. Was it a programming? Was it a process? Was it a user error? And so the right way, really, there is no right way and there's no wrong way. I think if you share and you're open and you try not to hide things, that really the truth is the right way.
Right.
How you communicate that truth, I think, is based on your business and how you want to run your business. But I wasn't afraid to sit down and say, look, yeah, we're losing money. We're not closing the doors.
Sure.
Yeah, we're losing money. So let's talk about how we make money so that everybody else can make money, because that has a trickle down effect. We make more money, you make more money. And
Absolutely.
right. So let's talk about how we're losing money, and let's talk about how we can make more and how we can improve that and dig out of that hole, and how you can help dig out of that hole. I'm not going to stand up here and scream and shout and we got to get more efficient and we got to do let's hear your input on how we can do better, and let's implement that, and let's see what the results are. So I don't know that, again, that there's a right way to share it, but um, you just have to be open and transparent and help people understand the overall business, and they'll understand. I think then they'll get it from there.
Yeah. Well, I think you just described the right way, to be honest. That honesty, that transparency, that humility of, asking them how to solve particular problems that they're the experts in, or have insights into, and collaborate. In our shop, we were also very transparent. We, every staff meeting every month, we would say, this is how much we brought in sales. This is how much we shipped. This is what our expenses were. This is how much direct hours we had, how much overhead, we had indirect. These are the jobs that went well. These are the jobs that didn't go well. And we always brought it back to process, kind of like you were saying. If we had a job we lost money on, what was the process that led up to that? Did we misquote it? Was it a bad estimate? Was it, we spent way more in material than we were expecting? Were we breaking a lot of cutters? Did the setup take way too long? And if so, why? Were we missing things? And I think bringing it back to process, because we definitely have a firm belief in sort of assuming positive intent, right? That everyone is trying their best and doing their best and cares about the work. They feel badly something's not going well, and they'd love to solve that as well. And it really comes down to what can we fix in the process so that it goes better next time.
Yeah, and you say, you bring up a good point about, did we bid it wrong, or what that is. There's unfortunately in our world, no matter how small or how big you are, we've got these big dogs that we're doing business with. They're 15, 20 times the size that we are. And we've got to hold quotes for a year, validity of quotes for a year, and in today's market,
that's brutal.
How do you do that? So we've had to come up with some creative ways to try to push back or renegotiate pricing, or I know we'll talk about a big project here at some point in this conversation that you pinged on when you were on the tour, that was really a problem for us. But those are the uncomfortable situations that we find ourselves in, is holding contract or holding quotes for a year when our metal suppliers are only offering us 24 hours or 5 days quote validity.
Sure.
And how do we accommodate that or factor that in? So when you can't readjust pricing, you've got to look at other opportunities. We shaved our small tool spend by 50% last year. As looking at small tool spend, we put heat shrink in place. We put a consignment program in place with tool providers, so we weren't spending the cash out front. We put sharpening regrind process in place. So we did a lot. We were on track to spend nearly just over $400,000 in small tool spend, and we closed out fiscal year 22 at $220,000 in small tool spend. And so
with similar volumes of work.
Correct. And it just had to get smarter about the way we did it, and took a little bit of investment. I mean, heat shrink machines and tool holders aren't cheap, but they pay for themselves. If you use them correctly, and in our situation, running some older machines, it gives us the opportunity to run, a little faster than we could originally. It also took a change in personnel. So
I wanted to get to that. You talked about bringing everyone in and talking with them and hearing from them. did you end up having to let some folks go?
So over the course of the last year, I replaced 50% of this company. And
Wow.
the interesting thing is I did not terminate one single person. So
Okay. Let's talk
it
about
was
that.
it was a realignment of expectations. It was a realignment of how we're going to do things, what roles people held, and openly communicating the direction the business is headed. And you were either on board or you weren't. It was a strong market for it's a buyer's market, job shoppers market.
Mm-hmm.
So we had some hard discussions with a lot of people. Hey, paying you a lot of money, not really liking what I'm seeing. Your scrap rates are high, your efficiency rates are low, your indirect hours are high. What are we going to do to tighten this up? We're doing things to improve the company. We've invested a lot of money back into the company over the course of the last year, whether it be, and again, small things on up to big things. We've run the gamut of improvements over the last year. This is a two-way street, and you want better wages, better benefits, more vacation time, more sick time, you know, more bonus opportunities. I promise you, I'll get you those. Here's what I need in return.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you don't like that idea? Well, this is a two-way street. So we had from the top down, all departments in the company were overhauled, restructured. We gave out a lot of money in pay raises. I pay banded every single employee in the company. We looked at the market. We looked at the Kansas City market. We looked at the
Mm-hmm.
years of service and years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to get people in line with where I felt they needed to be in the market. I had people that were well below the 50th percentile in the market or well above the 75th. I wanted to try to get people to fall in at 50 to 75% so that I had, options to move people around, put additional duties on people. If they want more
Mm-hmm.
money, we'll get you more money. Let's get some additional responsibilities. In the military, I was in the Coast Guard, where we're a very small branch. Everybody had a lot of collateral duties. I think at one point in time in my career, I had 11 collateral duties at one time, in addition to my primary roles.
Wow.
So, I would meet with, our team, and people would say, hey, I'd like an opportunity to branch out and do something. Okay. Hey, we got to get our safety committee back online. How would you like to chair the safety committee? I'll incentivize you financially to take on that role as a safety committee chair, as a collateral duty.
Mm-hmm.
You want more money. I need more performance. So let's look at spreading the load. And I had people loved it. Right? One of the machinists took on the role as a safety committee chair. We incentivized him, gave him an hourly bump to take on that additional role.
Mm-hmm.
He got more money. We got, look, this is a business, right? So let's talk the elephant in the room. He got more money. We got more out of him, right? That's where we are.
That's a win.
Right? It's a win. And so, those people that didn't want to have those hard discussions found opportunities elsewhere. And we got rid of a toxic culture. We had a lot of silos. People didn't like working together, right? We had wrong people in wrong roles. Let's figure it out. Not everybody is cut out to be a manager or a supervisor. So let's figure out what role fits your skill set best, and let's realign that role. I had a shop supervisor who has a tremendous amount of knowledge and experience, is an amazing machinist, did not have a good rapport with program managers or his team of machinists.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We sat down, had a hard conversation, realigned his role, And this is a success story. He stayed, realigned his role. He was no longer a shop supervisor. He expressed interest in wanting to grow and stay in some type of an administrative role. He's now our head estimator. Phenomenal employee. Amazing performance. Night and day difference in personalities. Night and day difference in performance. And now he's rocking and rolling, and he's killing it for us. We had to find that right role. Right. Everybody, and train him on how this side of the business is run. One of our best programmers was a machinist. Expressed an interest in doing something other than machining. Had some performance problems as a machinist because nobody ever took the time to figure out what the right role for him was. He is now a rock star in our programming department, and he's also the guy that heads up our safety committee. He's taken our safety committee from non-existent to top-notch, checking every box, doing air studies and environmental studies and safety studies, and putting all kind of safety procedures in place. Invest in listening to your employees and taking the time to figure out what the right role is. Those that didn't want to find the right role found other jobs elsewhere. Those that took the time, that took the opportunities and ran with it are just top-notch performers.
Wow. So this is so good. This is so much better than I was even expecting. So the gentleman that was the shop supervisor, was he basically promoted into that, even though he didn't really want to lead people?
So that happened long before my time. I believe he was hired in as a shop foreman.
Okay.
It's the perfect lead in, Paul. He used to own his own shop.
Oh, really?
He used to own his own shop in California. So okay. I think that, on paper, he looked amazing. Oh, you ran your own shop. Okay, well then you can lead a shop. Mm-hmm. Probably doesn't own his own shop. I don't know the background, but I know he moved to Kansas City, doesn't own his own shop anymore, hired on as a shop supervisor. Mm-hmm. Probably not the right fit.
Right.
To own your own shop, to run your own shop, or to run a shop.
Right.
Not that he's not talented, not that he's not a phenomenal employee, because he is. He's one of my top performers. He's, but a situation where I think, just like we were talking about here, is the person in the right role. Mm-hmm. Just because you're a machinist doesn't mean you can run a shop.
Sure. Absolutely.
Maybe get your shop, but find that outside resource that can help you run your business. If we want to go back to kind of what our original topic was, don't be afraid to step outside and say, hey, I can make a piece of metal into a piece of art. Mm-hmm. But I can't balance a checkbook. So
sure.
Who can help me balance a checkbook, right? I mean, I do it for free for small companies, small fab shops all over Kansas City. Talk to them about, help them even set up simple things like building them an Excel spreadsheet with drop downs that, hey, you need help quoting work. Let me teach you how to quote your work. Let's talk about, what the process is that you do for your job and how you quote that correctly so that you make money. And let me build a spreadsheet for you with all kind of drop downs and little things that you never have to think about it. You just click, drop, click, and it tells you what that cost is going to be. And then you put in the little box how much money you want to make on it, and it spits it out and tells you what you need to price it at. Right? Those resources are out there. Mm-hmm. I know our community college here in Kansas City has small business courses that are free to small businesses. There's other, so if you want to own your shop, and go for it. Just know what you don't know, right? And and do some digging on finding the resources. Don't be afraid to bring somebody in that's going to help you run your shop better, because those resources are out there.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. So I would love to dig into that topic that we keyed in on during the tour.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this. One. We'll change the names to protect the innocent,
sure.
just so we don't have any problems. But So 3 years ago, UltraTech took on a project to machine and weld a piece of ground support equipment for the F-35. When I took over the company a year ago, we had about a 98% failure rate in the product. We were 3 years into the project. We had only delivered 5 pieces. There was 122 on order. So, we were pretty far behind the 8 ball. That was one of my key focuses, is how do we get out from under this project? We've got a lot invested in it. We've got a lot of material, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and I'm sitting on crates and crates of scrapped parts. Why? How? What the hell's going on here? So I started pulling the technical specs. I started pulling the drawings. Luckily, I've got that background. I'm just, I'm not your typical corner office guy. I've got that technical background, that welding background, that pressure vessel welding experience. So, I started looking at those technical specs and looking at that material, looking at the process involved in that material. And I started asking the right people the right questions. I brought in my lead welder and my whole weld team, brought them in, sat them down. I know there's something not right here. I know there's something not right. I can't put my finger on it, but there is something in this process that's not right. There's a step that is wrong. I need you to help me identify it. And again, right, lessons learned. Nobody on this team had ever been brought in and sat down and said, tell me about this project and why it's not working. And maybe some people are unsure of themselves and don't want to volunteer the information. I think a fundamental problem in this trade is the people on this side of the wall not putting any value in the people on that side of the wall and listening to what they have to say, and really just being open to discussing those scenarios. So I brought in our engineering team. I brought in our welders. I brought in, everybody that had that expertise. I know something's not right, but I'm not the expert in it. So let's talk to the experts. Welders said, hey, looks to me like there's a heat process that's not right. This 4140, there's a preheat, you're welding it, there's a heat treat, it's cracking. At what stage is it cracking? Oh, it's cracking at this stage. Oh yeah, no, that's a heat problem. We definitely have a heat problem. Okay, engineers, do some digging on the metallurgic properties and figure this. And we all got the right people in the room and sat down, and we took a very calculated risk. It could have easily gone south. We were 3 years late on a contract, so we have to gently tell our customer that they're wrong. And they build fighter jets, we don't. So that's a hard one to say, hey, Mr. Fighter Jet guy, I know you're the world leader in fighter jets and we're just some little small machine shop in Kansas City, but you got a problem here and it's not us. And here's why it's not us. Right? We believe that the heat treat process at the temperature you spec'd out for this material is incorrect. We've talked to engineers, we've talked to welders, we've talked to the metal people. There's a flaw in this process. Your specs are wrong. We're not doing any more work on your project until you do a full engineering review and come back to us. We send that letter off, and then and that waiting game starts.
Wow.
But I was confident in the information from my people. I took what they had to say. I looked it up myself, made sure everything was on point. Obviously talked it over with my ownership team that, hey, this is the risk, right? If we push back, they can easily say you're late on your contract, we're canceling it, and we're stuck. But we're stuck anyways. We've got a 98% failure rate, so let's just stop dumping money into this and let's take a calculated risk and push back. So we pushed back, and 6 weeks later they called and said, you know what, you're right, there's a problem. we changed the material from the original design, and we changed the process from the original design. The material is wrong. The heat treat process is wrong. Let's talk. So they
Wow.
came in, they sat down. We shared what we had in the project. Here's what we have in the project. I want to get this project off my dock into your lap. I need to support the warfighter, but I also don't want to do it at a loss. And we've dumped, millions of dollars in this project. So you help us, we'll help you. I'll give you some deadlines. We'll come up with a process to get it fixed. But you got to have some skin in the game too. So, we took we turned it around. They agreed, we agreed. We both met in the middle and walked away. They're delivering product to them that works. Fixed it, figured out how to reprocess it, anneal it back down to a normal state, fix the welds, fix the cracks, get it all, acceptable, past mag particle. And they agreed that, there needed to be some offset in expenses. So, that took us from losing to being a profitable company this year. It was a calculated risk. But if you got the right people at the table that are vested in making sure that we succeed,
Right.
that risk factor is diminished.
Right.
So it was a huge win. It was unbelievable win.
That's a remarkable story. And I can imagine that before you sent them that letter and before you dug into all that, their quality team and their buyers are just beating you up. Like, what the hell is going wrong with you guys? Like, why can't you do this?
Every day. You're the NADCAP welding facility. You should know how to do this. We're doing it. We're doing it right, per your specs, per your process. So it's always going to fall back on the certified company. If you're not, you need to be doing it right. You're the certified company. You should be doing it right. Don't just roll the dice, though. My advice to everybody out there: don't just roll the dice, and it's because it may not always work. But
Sure.
You've got to have the data. You've got to have the right information. You've got to have the right data backing up your pushback, and you've got to have to be able to have the right conversation with the person you're pushing back to.
Sure.
Don't just blindside them and throw them a letter that says, I had that discussion up front. Hey guys, listen, I think, here's where we are. And, okay, well, put it in writing. Got it. It's coming your way.
Got it.
Be open, be transparent. Again, even with your customers.
Sure. Yeah.
We miss deadlines. That's going to happen. I try to be as open and transparent on why we're missing a deadline and why we need a change as possible. And not always our fault. A lot of times outside service processors or whatever the case is, but have those relationships and be able to have those hard discussions up the line as well as down the line, and it makes running your business a lot easier.
Wow. So were you coordinating that through your main buyer or through the quality department of that customer?
Started with the main buyer with the discussion. Obviously escalated to the program, the full program manager from there.
Okay.
So I had that discussion there at that level. Your buyer is always want to make sure your buyer, you take care of that person. They're your advocate. They're the ones that are taking the heat for you being late, or right. They're the ones getting beat on a regular basis about deliveries. So always try to take care of that buyer. They're going to be your advocate when it comes to, going to the mat for you. And so, I had got to have that discussion with the buyer, have that, and then they'll lay out the appropriate channel to escalate it. Don't just jump over their head. Chain of command. I'm a big believer in the chain of command. The chain of command needs to be followed. Obviously anybody's welcome to walk in my office any point in time, but I'm not going to just go above my buyer. because I think something's wrong. It goes back to the common courtesy, right? They don't want to be blindsided with something. They're your advocate. They're the ones that you're working with every day. That's where your relationship is. Let them pave that road up the line for you,
Right.
instead of you just jumping over their head and making their job harder.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can imagine the both the trepidation to do this and then the sense of relief when they came back and said, "You're right." Like, what a validation.
And we got follow-on orders afterwards with the rev rolls as a
Right.
result. So I
Yeah.
mean, it paid off not only for the current project, but for projects down the road.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my shop never faced anything quite that substantial, but on small scales, we'd make a part, we'd inspect it to the drawing, we'd send it to the customer, and on rare occasions they would come back and they'd say, no, this part is rejected. It's not right. And we would double check our work, our parts, our measurements, our technique, and be like, I think it actually is right. And then we'd sit down with a discussion with their inspectors and our inspectors and talk about how they're doing it, how we're doing it. And there were many times where we were right. The parts were fine, or, they were using a method of measurement or even misunderstanding their own drawings, right? Some super complicated GD&T stuff. And the receiving inspector may not totally understand exactly what the engineer had in mind.
Yeah, and they tend to be. I mean, I hate to say it, but they tend to be bullies too, right? They just push it back, kick it back, and say, your problem, not mine.
Right.
And so, it's tempering that schoolyard bully on how to work together is sometimes can be a challenge.
Yeah, and I can empathize with them as well. I mean, I'm sure they're overloaded and trying to get parts through the door and keep their supply chain moving and their production lines moving. So it's tough when things get sticky. But like per your comments, just open communication is pretty much always the best approach, right? So whether it's vendors or customers or employees. So wow. Remarkable stuff. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure there's a lot of shops that can relate, on a big or small scale, that might hopefully, have the courage to get their ducks in a row and kind of stand up for themselves. Because just because a company is a multi-billion-dollar company does not mean they've got everything right. That's for darn sure.
Right, absolutely, and bring the right people. Bring the right people in the room. If there's a doubt. I mean, I pull my welders in, I pull the certified weld inspectors in, pull the metal people in, get the right people in the room and listen and listen to them.
Yeah. What I'd like to just kind of transition a little bit. You've already shared so many big wins. What are some of the things you're really focusing on today to look forward to the next, 10 years? With making sure that your shop has enough of the right kind of work and the right equipment and people to execute that. What are you kind of looking forward to?
I'm trying to get the right team. I've got the majority in place, but trying to get the right team in place that are empowered to do their jobs, that can make decisions, know where the line is, but diversify our business. 90% of our work is defense contracting, or and there's a lot of ebbs and flows and dips to that. So
Sure.
we're looking at actually trying to do kind of a two different P&Ls, an aerospace P&L and an industrial or commercial P&L, where we can run two different rates, run two different lines of business, and diversify our portfolio. We have a number of projects that are not aerospace related, that are, we'll say taken at a loss from a margin standpoint, but the reality is they're not. It's an absorption, and it's a spindle time, and goes to keeping, we're busy. We've got a tremendous backlog, but we're looking at trying to diversify that backlog and do two different revenue streams and measure those revenue streams independently so that we have two different price points.
Right.
We definitely are hoping in the next couple of years to get some new machines. We haven't, some of our older machines. We had an old machine that hasn't run, and we haven't used it in a couple of years, and we're actually donating that machine to the Goodwill Industries locally. They have a certified manufacturers program where they bring the underprivileged or underserved through, and we helped. I met them at a Chamber of Commerce event, and it kind of escalated. They said, "Hey, what are you guys looking for in the market?" We said, "Well, even just the general somebody knowing how to read a set of prints and calipers is not even there." So they said, "Well, that's good. We want to start a manufacturing program. Let's focus on some of the needs that machine shops need." So we helped them write their curriculum, showed them some of the job descriptions and some of the responsibilities and what lower, the like just a general inspector, a receiving inspector that can read a tape measure and read micrometers and be able to read a print or read a CFC or whatever. And then it escalated from there. They've already gone through three different sessions. We've interviewed a number of them to consider for positions, whether it be assembly positions or inspector positions. And then from there, it was, "Hey, I have this old machine in the back, this old 3-axis that really hasn't run in years. It runs, we just don't, it's too slow for our functionality. It's not on the books with any value. Would you have a spot for it to take that training program to the next level?" So that I'm really looking forward to getting that in place and working with those guys to create a funnel, a pipeline of people that have at least laid their hands on a machine that can be beneficial to our market. And maybe they can't come into an ITAR certified defense contractor from a background check standpoint, but there's a lot of other machine shops that don't need that or don't have that don't have a pipeline of that next generation of people coming up. So from an outside of the company, we're really looking forward to getting that finalized this year and working with the community to develop that program, and then also again diversify our portfolio to grow our market share in the non-aerospace or non-defense business.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any? Well, first of all, that's exceptional what you're doing with Goodwill. I think community engagement and workforce development is just such an essential part of what our industry needs to really do better at, because the shortages in skilled labor is just so intense. So good for you guys. Do you have any targets for where you'd like to be in sort of your mix of industries or customers within those industries?
I do and I don't. Right. 90% of our business is focused on defense, and I would really like to see more of a 60-40 split,
Okay.
where 60% of our business is defense, 40% of our business is commercial or industrial.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is I don't have a sales staff right now.
Okay.
As we grow and develop, I'll add those roles. But to save on overhead and save on cost, I do a lot of our business development.
Okay.
But I've also I took a risk and hired one of those lead generation companies. Never used one in the past, never believed in them, didn't feel that they, snake oil salesman, whatever, call it what you want. But what I found was, trying to run the business, trying to change the culture, trying to restructure a company, replace employees, and redevelop and grow and turn the company around. I needed to spread that load out. And the sales portion of it, while my program managers are phenomenal and do an unbelievable job at managing the accounts we have, we fall in that middle size range. So we can't continue to add overhead and we can't reduce our overhead. So we're in that tough position.
Yeah.
So how do I, what's my force multiplier? And I met with a cold call. Somebody showed up on the door and said, "Hey, we're a lead generation company. Can we talk?" I'm like, "Oh, whatever. Let's talk." So what I did was I took a risk, and it was a 3 month. I said, "Listen, I'm not signing on with you for a year. I don't know you. Don't know what you can do. So I'll give you a shot." And it was $5,000 a month. It was so $15,000. I agreed to sign on for a 3 month trial. And in that 3 months, we laid out a target. Okay, I want to get into rail. I want to get into the rail industry. I want to get into maybe some maritime business or some oil and gas business, some other, these types of markets. And in the first 3 months, they got me in front of 26 potential non-aerospace accounts.
Wow.
Which I was shocked. I was literally blown away. And that
And
15,000.
and what is getting in front of? What does that mean? Meetings with them or quote
Meetings with them
opportunities?
and quote opportunities. So 26 meetings. Most of them were virtual. If there were some around town, they were in person. But they got past the gatekeeper. They got me in front of the decision maker, and got me the opportunity to have the discussion about what your manufacturing needs are. Now, a lot of these folks already have a machine shop they have relationships with, or maybe have some internal capabilities.
Sure.
But out of those 26 meetings, out of those 26 contacts that I had meetings with, I walked away with 6 quote potentials, and that was a total of $575,000 in quotes. So not a bad return on the investment. Now, of those quotes, we were high on 50% of them, so we didn't win them, but gives us an idea of where we need to fall in that market to adjust and adapt.
That's valuable.
A couple of the other ones, we've got good feedback, and it was the RFQ process where they've quoted their customer and they're waiting on, and we follow up with them, and I think that I'm confident that we'll see something out of those. I felt that it was successful enough that we signed up for another 3 months. So the cost, while it sounds like a lot, but compared to having a full-time staff, it's not.
Sure.
And all I have to do is get one PO, and it's paid for itself.
Right.
And so we're going down that road, experimenting with that until we get to a growth point where we can add the overhead. And to be honest, if it continues to be successful, I may not even need to add the overhead. Maybe we'll just continue down the road with them.
Right.
But it was
neat.
Surprisingly beneficial.
That's a creative, and I know, I don't know if you'd want to share their name. We can talk about that later or put it in the show notes if you do. But I know a lot of shops struggle with that same exact question. I can't really afford a full-time salesperson, but I can't afford to not have one because I need to bring in the business. The biggest thing is having months where you're not meeting your break even, and you're losing money. Your bank account's dwindling, and you can only do that so long before it's the end.
Yeah, I would absolutely. I mean, I think they would benefit. It's a company in Kansas City called the North Star Group. It was beneficial that they were local. I was able to sit down. I'm a big advocate of face to face across the table and ask you the hard questions and watch you squirm, or see how you respond to those. But no, it's been, like I said, I didn't believe in that business model. I've never needed that business model in the past.
Sure.
But now finding myself running a smaller company where I don't have a sales staff and I'm trying to do a lot of different aspects of the business, it's proved valuable. So,
so you mentioned that you had a really strong backlog. Maybe that's just in certain areas like welding, but so I'm just curious to ask, you have a backlog, yet you're going for new sales opportunities.
Correct. So, we look at capacity like everybody does, right? You've got machine capacity and you've got headcount capacity, right? And And based on that, right, with my current head count versus what my machine capacity is, I can add heads and increase significant capacity. So we do have a very strong backlog for this year. We are and adding to it, and I want to add to it. And so yeah, and we've added some new people. We run 4 10-hour shifts. One of the changes, so Monday through Thursday, our day shift is 6 to 4:30. Night shift is 4 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. And our night shift's a little lighter staffed, but we've got obviously right. We've got room to add there. But I want to. One of the things that's unique about a 4 10-hour shift, and Fridays is overtime or makeup time days. Traditionally, salaried employees get to come and go as they please, go to a doctor's appointment, go to a dentist appointment, go to a kid's function. I want my machinists to have the same flexibility and luxury as my salaried employees. So we really use the Fridays to, hey, you need to take your car and to the service shop at, from noon to 2 on a Tuesday, punch out, go do it, come on back, and make up the time on Friday. So I run a real flexible schedule, but that kind of diverted there. But I just feel that that's a critical piece to our success too, is the way we work our schedule.
I remember you talking about that. I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, that's because that's for some people make or break, right? That flexibility to take their kid to childcare, pick them up early, do whatever they need to do. They'd love to stay with you, but if you're not flexible with their work hours, they can't, right?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's got life outside of here, and I want to impact your life outside of here as positively as possible, because you coming to work and being pissed off when you come to work doesn't do me any good.
Sure.
So let's make sure that when you leave here, if you need to leave for a kid's appointment, you have that flexibility. You have that option. But anyways, back to our backlog. We can pull in more overtime hours. We can pull in more headcount if we need to. We've got some guys on the floor that are really working on getting things to run lights out, so we can get some of the things that we're going after. We don't mind doing the 1, 2, 3 piece development. Mm-hmm. We don't mind doing 1,000-piece runs, mm-hmm. and everything in between. So some of the areas that we're going after are those lower complexity, not 5-axis work, lower complexity work that we can put on a machine, we can set up, and we can run, lights out or unattended, to increase that capacity, and I can slide that operator over to another, 2 or 3 different machines. So sure. That's kind of some of the areas we're focusing on, is that lower complexity work that doesn't need the attentiveness, some longer sure. run cycles to be able to increase that backlog.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the distinction on machine capacity versus people capacity. I think that's a really important thing to think about, and to maximize spindle hours. Like you said, even if it's just lower margin, but it's contributing right. to overhead and can really help improve the bottom line. So, well, Fred, I think we should start wrapping up. This has been a good long episode. And like I said, I knew the story about the customer and the quality stuff would be good, but you have dropped so much knowledge just about the process you've gone through this whole year. I know people are going to find huge value out of it. So thank you so much. Thank you for your service. Thank you for volunteering to help other, veteran-owned businesses. The pro bono work you do, that's amazing.
I appreciate that. Thanks,
yeah, that's Paul. Fantastic.
I appreciate the opportunity coming on, sharing our successes and our struggles and our pains. And I'm a phone call away. We're all in this industry together. Somebody's got questions or looking for some help. I'm more than happy to lend an ear or offer an opinion.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's one of the things that just continues to make me feel so great about this industry. It's filled with folks like you that are just here to help, help others. We're all in it together. So thank you for that. So if people do want to reach out or learn more about UltraTech, how should they go about doing that?
Yeah, always, utaero.com, utaero.com is the website. More than welcome. My email is a bit long, but, it's first initial, last name. So F Stipkovitz at utaero.com, or, feel free to give me a jingle. My direct dial's 913-671-2963.
Okay. Wow. Awesome. Well, Fred, thank you again so much. This has been just a really, I wouldn't say it's a rewarding hour for me to hear about your experience and what you've done with the shop. It's really impressive. So thank you for sharing. And we'll hopefully see you around maybe an NTMA event or something like that.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Paul. Thank you
All right.
again for your time.
Take care.